During a benefit gathering at a veterans hall in rural Montana, a 10-year-old boy sprinted through the gravel parking lot, tears streaming down his dirt-streaked face, screaming for help. His sister had vanished into the dense forest that bordered the property, a place locals avoided after dark, where missing person flyers had been stapled to trees for years. Without hesitation, 53 bikers killed their engines mid-conversation, grabbed flashlights and radios, and followed the boy into the shadowed wilderness. What they discovered deep among the pines was not what anyone expected. A scene so disturbing, so carefully hidden, that it would unite strangers into a family bound by silence, fury, and an unspoken vow. This is not a story about heroes who wore badges. It's about those who wore leather, carried scars, and knew that some promises are kept not with words, but with action. What began as a desperate plea from a child became a reckoning that exposed buried sins, shattered a town's illusion of safety, and proved that sometimes justice arrives not in courtrooms, but on the back of a motorcycle, under a blood-red Montana sky. By dawn, the boy's sister was found. But what the bikers uncovered in those woods changed them all, and ensured that no one would ever disappear there again. If you're ready to witness what happened in that forest, and why 53 strangers became brothers and sisters that night, keep watching. This story will stay with you long after it ends. The sun hung low over the Flathead Valley, casting long amber streaks across the gravel lot of the Iron Ridge Veterans Hall. The air smelled of pine resin, motor oil, and charcoal smoke rising from a rusted barrel grill. 53 motorcycles sat in uneven rows, Harleys, Triumphs, old Hondas with patched leather seats, each one a testament to miles ridden and roads survived. This wasn't a rally, it was a reunion. Every third Saturday in October they came. Veterans, truckers, retired teachers, former medics, men and women who had nothing in common except the machines they rode and the unspoken code they lived by. Show up when it matters. Marcus Hawk Lennox stood near the edge of the lot, arms crossed over a faded denim vest. His beard was salt and pepper, his eyes the color of old steel. He'd been riding for 34 years, since the day he left Fort Benning with a duffel bag, a discharge letter, and a promise he'd made to a dying friend in Kandahar. "If I don't make it back, you make sure my kid knows I tried." Hawk had kept that promise. He'd driven 17 hours to Tennessee, found the boy, and told him the truth. The kid had cried. Hawk had stayed silent. That's how it was done. Now, Hawk ran these gatherings. No speeches, no flags, just food, beer, and the quiet comfort of people who understood what it meant to carry weight no one else could see. A woman named Carla, silver-haired, leather jacket, older than most of the bikes, was handing out paper plates stacked with burgers. A guy named Rhett, missing 2 fingers on his left hand, was tuning a guitar by the fire. Someone laughed. Someone else cursed at a carburetor. It was the kind of peace that came from shared exhaustion. Then the boy appeared. He came running from the tree line, stumbling over roots, his sneakers caked in mud. His voice cracked as he screamed, "Please, please, somebody help me! It's my sister!" Every head turned. Hawk dropped his coffee cup. It hit the dirt and didn't spill, just rolled, slow and forgotten. The boy was maybe 10 years old. His face was streaked with tears and dirt, his T-shirt torn at the shoulder, his chest heaved as he struggled to breathe. "She's gone," he sobbed. "She's in the woods. I can't find her. Please." No one asked questions. No one hesitated. Hawk was already moving. "Rhett, grab the med kit. Carla, radios. Everyone else, lights and bikes. Now!" The lot exploded into motion. Engines roared to life. Flashlights clicked on. Someone pulled a coil of rope from a saddlebag. Another grabbed a first aid kit the size of a tackle box. The boy stood in the center of it all, shaking, his small fists clenched. Hawk knelt in front of him, his voice low and steady. "What's your name, son?" "Eli. Eli, I'm Hawk. We're going to find her. But I need you to stay calm and tell me..." "What's her name?" "Mia. She's 7. We were playing near the trail and she ran after something. I don't know what. I tried to follow, but I lost her. I yelled and she didn't answer." Hawk's jaw tightened. He glanced toward the tree line. The forest beyond was dense. Old-growth pine, steep ravines, places where cell signals died and compasses spun. "How long ago?" "Maybe 20 minutes, maybe more. I ran to find help." Hawk stood, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. "You did the right thing. Now you're gonna ride with me and you're gonna show us exactly where you last saw her. Understood?" Eli nodded, his eyes wide and red. Hawk turned to the others. 52 faces stared back at him, waiting, ready. "We go in formation. Stay close. No one rides alone. If you see anything, you radio it in. We don't leave until we find her." Someone muttered, "Copy that." Another said, "Let's roll." Hawk lifted Eli onto the back of his bike, secured him with a bungee strap across his chest, and handed him a helmet. "Hold on tight, Eli. We're not stopping until she's safe." The boy's hands gripped Hawk's vest. The convoy rolled forward, engines rumbling like distant thunder, headlights cutting through the twilight as they turned off the gravel lot and onto the narrow dirt trail that led into the forest. Behind them, the fire still burned. The burgers went cold. No one looked back. Somewhere out there, in the growing dark, a 7-year-old girl named Mia was waiting, and 53 strangers who had never met her were already determined to bring her home. The dirt trail was barely wide enough for one bike. Hawk led the line, his headlight bouncing over ruts and exposed roots. Behind him, the convoy stretched like a chain of glowing eyes, each rider close enough to see the tail light ahead, far enough to react if someone skidded. Eli sat rigid against Hawk's back, his small arms locked around the older man's ribs. Every few seconds, he would lift his head and shout over the engine noise. "There! That's where we were!" Hawk slowed, raising a fist. The entire line stopped in unison, engines idling in a low, collective growl. They had reached a clearing where the trail split into 3 directions. To the left, the path descended toward a dry creek bed. Straight ahead, it continued into thicker forest. To the right, it climbed steeply toward a ridge lined with jagged stones. Hawk cut his engine. The silence that followed was heavier than the noise had been. "Eli," Hawk said quietly, "where exactly did she run?" The boy pointed toward the right trail, the one that climbed. "Up there. She said she saw something shiny, like a coin or something. She ran toward it, and I tried to follow, but she's faster than me." Hawk frowned. Kids didn't just chase shiny things into dangerous terrain unless something had drawn them in. His gut tightened. Carla pulled up beside him, her bike rumbling softly. She was holding a handheld radio and a topographic map of the area, laminated and marked with trails. "This ridge," she said, tracing a line with her finger. "It loops around a ravine. If she kept running, she could have gotten disoriented, or worse, slipped." Rhett, who had parked his bike and was already on foot, walked a few paces up the trail. He crouched low, studying the ground with the focus of someone who'd tracked more than deer in his life. "Fresh prints," he called back. "Small, sneakers, headed uphill." Hawk nodded. "That's her. We follow on foot from here. Bikes stay here as a fallback point. Lights stay on." He turned to the others. "I need 6 with me. The rest of you fan out along the other 2 trails just in case she doubled back. Stay in pairs. No one goes silent for more than 5 minutes. If you don't check in, we come looking." A woman named Darcy, broad-shouldered, tattoos up both arms, stepped forward. "I'm in." A younger guy, late 20s with a bandana tied around his head, raised his hand. "Me too." 4 others volunteered without a word. Hawk handed Eli off to Carla. "You stay here with him. Keep him warm. If we radio, you answer." Eli's eyes went wide. "No! I'm coming with you!" Hawk knelt again, meeting the boy's gaze. "Eli, listen to me. You did your part. You got help. Now we need you here so we know where to bring her back to. You understand? This is the safe spot. You're the anchor." The boy's lip trembled, but he nodded. Hawk stood, slinging a canvas pack over his shoulder. Inside, rope, a knife, a thermal blanket, and a flare gun. "Let's move." The group ascended in a single file, their flashlights cutting narrow beams through the darkness. The air grew colder as they climbed. Pine branches hung low, scraping at their jackets. The ground was uneven, loose rocks, hidden roots, patches of slick moss. Rhett stayed in front, reading the terrain like a text. Every few yards he would stop and point. "She stumbled here. See the scuff mark?" She caught herself. "Here. She touched this tree. Bark scraped. She's still moving. That's good." But after another 100 yards, Rhett stopped. His face darkened. "What?" Hawk asked. Rhett pointed to the ground. There in the soft dirt were 2 sets of prints. One small, one large. Hawk's blood turned to ice. "She's not alone," Rhett said quietly. Darcy swore under her breath. The younger guy pulled a wrench from his belt, gripping it like a weapon. Hawk's jaw clenched. He keyed his radio. "Carla, we've got a second set of tracks. Adult male, size 11 or 12 boot. Likely following the girl." Static crackled. Then Carla's voice came through, tight and controlled. "Copy. I'm calling County Sheriff. But Hawk, nearest unit is 40 minutes out." "Understood, we're not waiting." He looked at the others. "From here on, we move fast but quiet. If someone's got her, we don't spook them. We get close, we assess, and then we act. Clear?" Everyone nodded. They moved faster now, adrenaline overriding caution. The trail grew steeper. The trees thinned. Ahead, the ridge opened into a rocky overlook, and then they heard it. A voice, high-pitched, crying. "Please, I want to go home." Hawk's heart slammed against his ribs. He motioned for silence, and the group dropped low, moving between the trees like shadows. They reached the edge of the overlook and looked down. Below, in a shallow ravine, was a crude campsite. Tarp stretched between 2 trees, a battery-powered lantern casting sickly yellow light, empty cans scattered in the dirt. And sitting on a log, hands bound with zip ties, was a little girl in a pink jacket, Mia. Standing over her, pacing, was a man in his 40s, greasy hair, stained jeans, a hunting knife on his belt. He was talking to himself, muttering, his movements jerky and unstable. Hawk's vision narrowed, his hand moved to the flare gun. Darcy leaned close, her voice barely a whisper. "There's more!" She pointed to the left side of the camp. Hawk's stomach turned. There were 3 more tarps. And beneath one of them, partially visible, was a small sneaker, pink with glitter. Another child. Maybe more. Hawk closed his eyes for 1 second. Then he opened them, and his voice was a blade. "We end this. Now." Hawk's mind moved faster than his heartbeat. He scanned the ravine below, calculating angles, distance, risk. The man was armed, the girl was terrified. One wrong move, and this could go from rescue to tragedy. He turned to the group, his voice a whisper that cut through the tension like a knife through silk. "Rhett, circle left. Get above that tarp. If there's another kid under there, we need eyes on them. Darcy, you and Kyle go right. Create noise on my signal. Make him think we're coming from that direction. I'm going straight down. When he turns toward you, I take him." "What about the girl?" Kyle asked, his voice tight. "She stays still. We make sure of that." Hawk pulled the flare gun from his pack, checked the load, then holstered it. "If this goes bad, we don't hesitate. Understood?" Everyone nodded. Hawk keyed his radio 1 more time. "Carla, we've got visual on Mia. She's alive. We're moving in. If you don't hear from me in 10 minutes, send everyone. Copy. Godspeed, Hawk." He clipped the radio to his belt, then locked eyes with each person in turn. No words. Just the silent understanding that came from people who had walked through fire before and knew the cost of looking away. They moved. Rhett disappeared into the shadows, his boots soundless on the rocky ground. Darcy and Kyle slipped to the right, using the tree line as cover. Hawk waited, counting seconds, watching the man below. He was still pacing, still muttering. The girl, Mia, sat frozen on the log, her wrists raw where the zip ties dug into her skin. Her face was pale, streaked with tears, but she wasn't screaming anymore. She had gone quiet, the kind of quiet that comes when hope starts to die. Hawk couldn't let that happen. He began his descent, moving with the slow precision of someone who had learned long ago that speed kills and patience saves. His boots found purchase on stone, root, and dirt. His breath was controlled, his hands steady. Below, the man stopped pacing. He turned toward Mia, crouched down in front of her. "You're gonna be good, right? You're not gonna yell?" Mia nodded, her eyes wide and glassy. "Good. Good girl. See? This ain't so bad. You just gotta be quiet, just like the others." Hawk's jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. The man reached out, brushed a strand of hair from Mia's face. She flinched. That was when Darcy made her move. A sharp crack echoed from the right side of the ravine, a branch snapping under a boot. Deliberate, loud. The man's head snapped up. His hand went to the knife on his belt. "Who's there?" Another sound, closer, the rustle of leaves. The man stood, pulling the knife free. "I know you're out there. I'll gut her, I swear to God, I'll—" Hawk dropped. He hit the ground behind the man with the force of a falling stone, his boots crunching gravel. The man spun, knife raised, but Hawk was faster. He grabbed the man's wrist, twisted it backward with a sickening pop, and drove his knee into the man's gut. The knife clattered to the ground. The man gasped, tried to shout, but Hawk's forearm was already across his throat, cutting off air, dragging him backward into the dirt. "Don't! Move!" Hawk growled into the man's ear. The man thrashed, eyes bulging, but Hawk's grip was iron. Former military, former medic, former a lot of things, but never former when it came to this. Darcy and Kyle came crashing through the brush, flashlights raised. Rhett appeared from the left, moving toward the tarps. Hawk held the man down, his voice cold and steady. "How many kids?" The man wheezed, tried to shake his head. Hawk tightened his grip. "I asked you a question." "3," the man choked out. "Just 3. Hawk's vision blurred red for a moment. He forced it back. "Darcy, cut her loose. Kyle, get her out of here. Rhett, check the tarps." Darcy was already at Mia's side, pulling a multi-tool from her jacket. She sliced through the zip ties in one motion, then wrapped her arms around the girl. "You're safe now, sweetheart. We've got you." Mia collapsed into her, sobbing. Kyle helped them to their feet, guiding them toward the trail. Rhett moved to the tarps, lifting the first one carefully. His face went pale. Hawk didn't let go of the man. "Talk to me. There's 2 more girls here, both breathing, both unconscious. Looks like sedatives." Hawk's grip tightened. The man beneath him gasped. "You're done," Hawk said quietly. "You hear me? Done." He pulled the man to his feet, zip-tied his wrists behind his back with a cord from his pack, and shoved him toward a tree. He secured him there, then keyed his radio. "Carla, we need paramedics. Now. 2 more girls unconscious but stable. 1 suspect in custody. Tell the sheriff we're not leaving until they get here." "Copy." "EMS is rolling. Hawk, thank God." Hawk didn't respond. He walked over to where Rhett knelt beside the 2 girls. One looked about 8, the other maybe 6. Both were pale, their breathing shallow but steady. Rhett was already checking pulses, lifting eyelids, assessing. "They'll make it," he said, "but they need a hospital." Hawk nodded. He pulled the thermal blanket from his pack and draped it over both of them. Then he stood, walked back to the man tied to the tree, and crouched down in front of him. "You're going to prison," Hawk said, his voice low and cold. "And every single day you're there, you're going to remember that a 10-year-old boy outsmarted you, that 53 bikers you never met hunted you down, and that the last thing you saw before your life ended was a little girl you couldn't break." The man said nothing. His eyes were hollow. Hawk stood and walked away. 20 minutes later, the sound of sirens echoed through the forest. Red and blue lights flickered between the trees. Paramedics arrived with stretchers, oxygen IVs. Mia was reunited with Eli at the top of the trail. The boy wrapped his arms around his sister and didn't let go. She cried into his shoulder. He whispered, "I told you I'd find help." The other 2 girls were loaded into ambulances. Their parents called. Their lives just beginning the long road back. The man was taken away in handcuffs, silent, broken. And the 53 bikers stood in a circle around the fire that still burned at the Iron Ridge Veterans Hall, watching the dawn break over the mountains. No one spoke. No one needed to. They had made a promise the moment that boy asked for help, and they had kept it. Montana, 6:47 a.m. If you've ever wondered what real courage looks like, it's not always loud. Sometimes it's 53 strangers who stop everything to follow a crying child into the dark. Drop a comment if this story moved you. The Montana sun rose slow and red, spilling over the ridge like a wound opening. The fire at Iron Ridge Veterans Hall had burned down to coals, but no one had left. 53 bikers sat or stood in loose clusters, holding paper cups of cold coffee, saying little, feeling much. Hawk stood near the edge of the lot, staring at the tree line. His hands were scraped raw from the descent into the ravine. His knuckles were bruised. His back ached. But none of that registered. What stayed with him was the image of those two girls under the tarps, barely breathing, barely there. He had seen bad things before. War left scars you couldn't scrub off. But this was different. This was an evil that wore a human face and lived in the same woods where children played. Carla walked up beside him, her silver hair tied back. Her leather jacket zipped against the morning chill. "Sheriff's calling you a hero," she said quietly. Hawk didn't look at her. "I'm not. You saved 3 kids. We saved 3 kids, and we were almost too late." Carla didn't argue. She just stood there, arms crossed, staring at the same trees. After a long silence, Hawk spoke again. "How many others, Carla? How many didn't get found?" She didn't answer, because they both knew the truth. The man they'd caught had been out there for years. The tarps, the camp, the setup. It wasn't new. It was practiced. Somewhere there were other families still waiting, still searching, still hoping. Hawk clenched his jaw. "We need to find them." Carla turned to him. "That's not our job, Hawk. That's the sheriff's job. The FBI, the system. The system didn't show up last night. We did." She sighed. "I know, but you can't carry the whole world on your back." Hawk finally looked at her. His eyes were tired, but they were also sharp, focused. "Maybe not the whole world, but this corner of it? Yeah, I can." Duh, an hour later, 2 vehicles pulled into the lot. The first was an unmarked sedan, county detective, Hawk guessed. The second was a white van with Child Advocacy Center printed on the side. A woman in her 50s stepped out of the van, carrying a canvas bag and a clipboard. She had kind eyes and the kind of calm that came from walking through trauma every day without letting it drown her. Her name was Dr. Elaine Marsh. She introduced herself to Hawk and Carla, shook their hands, and thanked them. "What you did last night," she said, "gave those girls a chance. That's not small. That's everything." Hawk nodded, but said nothing. Dr. Marsh glanced around at the bikers. Men and women in leather and denim, some with grey beards, some with tattoos, some with scars you could see and some you couldn't. "I've worked cases like this for 20 years, she said, "and I've learned something. The people who show up when it matters most, they're never the ones you expect. They're the ones who know what it's like to be forgotten." Carla smiled faintly. "You got that right." Dr. Marsh turned back to Hawk. "I need to ask you a few questions. For the record. And because I think you saw more than you've said." Hawk's expression didn't change. "What do you want to know?" "The campsite, the tarps, the setup. You said there were signs of other victims." Hawk nodded. "Clothing, small sizes. Old, buried under leaves and dirt near the fire pit. Looked like he'd been using that site for a while." Dr. Marsh wrote something down. "Did you touch anything?" "No. Rhett flagged it for the sheriff. Took photos with his phone." "Good. That'll help." She paused, then looked at him carefully. "Hawk, I know this isn't easy to answer, but did you see anything that might help us identify other children? Names, belongings, anything?" Hawk's throat tightened. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small plastic bag. Inside was a charm bracelet, pink, with little plastic letters spelling out a name. "Lily. I found this near the fire pit," Hawk said quietly. "Half buried. I didn't touch it with my hands. Used a stick to pick it up. Dr. Marsh took the bag carefully, her face somber. Thank you. This could bring someone closure. Or break them all over again, Hawk said. Maybe, but not knowing is worse. Hawk didn't disagree. The detective, a man named Gordon with a buzz cut and a limp, interviewed Hawk next. He was all business, asked about the timeline, the suspect, the condition of the girls, the evidence. Hawk answered every question with precision. No embellishment, no emotion, just facts. At the end, Gordon closed his notebook and looked at Hawk with something close to respect. You did good work last night. Cleaner than some officers I've worked with. I'm not looking for a badge, Hawk said. Didn't figure you were, Gordon paused. But if you ever want to consult on cases like this, search and rescue, missing persons, we could use someone like you. Hawk didn't respond. He just nodded once and walked away. By mid-afternoon, the lot had mostly cleared. Bikes had rolled out one by one, riders heading home to their own lives, their own waits. But a dozen stayed, including Hawk, Carla, Rhett, Darcy, and Kyle. They sat around the remains of the fire, not speaking much, just being there. Finally, Rhett broke the silence. I've been riding with you guys for 8 years. I've seen a lot. But last night, that was different. Darcy nodded. Yeah, it was. I keep thinking, Rhett continued, what if that kid hadn't found us? What if he'd run to someone else? Or no one at all? Then those girls would still be out there, Kyle said quietly. And that man would still be hunting. Carla leaned forward, resting her elbows on her knees. So what do we do now? Just go home and pretend it didn't happen? Hawk shook his head. No, we don't forget, and we don't stop. What are you saying? Darcy asked. Hawk looked at each of them in turn. I'm saying this, if we could do this once, we can do it again. There are other kids out there, other families who need help, and the system's stretched too thin to find them all. You want to start a search team? Rhett asked. I want to be ready, so the next time someone runs up to us and asks for help, we don't have to figure it out on the fly. We're prepared, we're organized, we're a crew. Carla smiled. You're talking about building something. I'm talking about keeping a promise, Hawk said. The one we made when we followed that boy into the woods. Kyle grinned. I'm in. Darcy nodded. Same. Rhett raised his coffee cup. Hell yeah. One by one, the others agreed. And just like that, in the ashes of a fire that had burned all night, something new was born. Not a club, not a gang, a family, bound by a single, unbreakable rule. When someone asks for help, we answer. 3 weeks after the rescue, Hawk received a phone call at 2:47 a.m. He was awake. He was always awake at that hour, sitting in the small workshop behind his house, sanding down the frame of an old Triumph, the kind of work that kept his hands busy and his mind quiet. His phone buzzed on the workbench. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick it up. Yeah. A woman's voice, shaking, barely holding together. Is this Marcus Lennox? The one they call Hawk? Hawk set down the sandpaper. Who's asking? My name is Rachel Torrance. I live in Billings. My daughter, she's been missing for 6 days. The police are trying, but they're not. They're not finding her. And I heard what you did. In the woods. With those girls. Hawk's chest tightened. Ma'am, I'm not law enforcement. I can't. I know you're not. But please, I don't know who else to call. They keep telling me to wait, to be patient. But I can feel it. She's running out of time. Hawk closed his eyes. He thought about Mia, about Eli, about the 2 other girls under the tarps. How old is she? 14. Her name is Sophie. She left for school Monday morning and never came home. Her phone's off. Her friends haven't seen her. And there's this boy, this older boy she'd been talking to online. I told the police, but they said they're looking into it. They said that 3 times now, and nothing's changed. Hawk stood up, already reaching for his jacket. Text me your address. I'll be there in 2 hours. Thank you. Oh God, thank you. Don't thank me yet. Just send the address. He hung up, then dialed Carla. She answered on the second ring, groggy but alert. "Hawk, it's 3 in the morning. I know, I need the crew. Now, what happened? Missing girl, Billings, 14 years old, 6 days gone. Mother says the cops are stalling." There was a pause. Then Carla's voice came back, clear and steady. "I'll make the calls. How many do you need?" "Everyone." "Copy. We'll meet you at the Billings rest stop off I-90, 2 hours. "Thanks, Carla." "Hawk?" "Yeah? We got this." He hung up, grabbed his helmet, and walked out into the cold Montana night. By the time the sun rose, 47 motorcycles were parked in a circle at the rest stop. Hawk stood in the center, a printed photo of Sophie Torrance in his hand. Her mother had sent it. A school picture. Sophie had dark hair, bright eyes, braces. She looked like every other kid who believed the world was safe. Hawk held up the photo so everyone could see. "Her name is Sophie. She's been missing for 6 days. Last seen leaving her house for school. Never arrived. Phone's dead. Police are investigating, but they're moving slow. We're not." He handed out printed maps, marked with locations, her school, her friends' houses, known hangouts, the address of the boy she'd been messaging online. "We split into teams, 4 bikes per team. You cover your zone, you ask questions, you look for anything the cops might have missed. If you find something, you call it in. No heroics, no confrontations. We're gathering intel, not starting a war. Clear?" Everyone nodded. "Let's ride." By noon, 3 teams had reported back. Nothing. But the 4th team, led by Rhett, had found something. They'd gone to the address of the boy Sophie had been messaging, a run-down duplex on the edge of town. The boy, 17, named Cody, lived there with his older brother. The brother was 26, had a record, assault, drug possession, unlawful imprisonment. Rhett called Hawk from the street. The brother's name is Travis Holt. And Hawk, his truck matches a description from a neighbor who saw a girl getting into a vehicle near Sophie's school the day she disappeared. Gray Ford, dented bumper. Hawk's pulse quickened. "Where's the truck now?" "Parked in the driveway, but the house looks empty." "Stay there. I'm coming to you." Hawk and 6 others arrived within 20 minutes. They parked a block away and approached on foot. The duplex was quiet. Blinds drawn. No movement inside. Hawk knocked. No answer. He tried the doorknob. Locked. Darcy looked at him. "What do you want to do?" Hawk stared at the door. Every instinct told him Sophie was inside. Every law told him he couldn't go in. He made his choice. "Kick it." Kyle didn't hesitate. 1 boot to the frame and the door splintered open. They moved inside, fast and silent. The place was filthy. Empty beer cans, ashtrays overflowing, stained carpet. A back bedroom door was locked from the outside. Hawk didn't knock this time. He broke the lock with a crowbar. Inside, on a stained mattress, was Sophie Torrance. She was alive, barely conscious, wrists zip-tied, dehydrated, bruised, but alive. Hawk knelt beside her, cutting the ties, wrapping her in his jacket. "Sophie, you're safe. We're taking you home." Her eyes fluttered open. She tried to speak, but only a whisper came out. "My mom. She's the one who called us. She never stopped looking." Tears ran down Sophie's face. Hawk carried her out of that house, into the daylight, and into the arms of paramedics who had been called the moment they found her. Rachel Torrance arrived 10 minutes later, collapsing beside her daughter, sobbing, holding her like she'd never let go. Hawk stood back, watching, his face unreadable. Carla walked up beside him. "You just kicked in a door without a warrant, Hawk." "I know. Could have gone bad." "It didn't." She smiled faintly. "No, it didn't." That night, the crew gathered again at Iron Ridge. No celebration, no speeches, just the quiet knowledge that they had done it again, and that they would do it again, as many times as it took. Travis Holt was arrested 4 hours after Sophie was found. The sheriff's department had been slow to act, but once Hawk's crew handed them a location, evidence, and a victim ready to testify, there was no escaping it. Holt was cuffed in a Walmart parking lot, trying to flee town with a duffel bag full of cash and a fake ID. He didn't resist. He didn't speak. He just stared at the officers with empty eyes, the kind that had stopped seeing people as people a long time ago. Hawk wasn't there for the arrest. He didn't need to be. His job had been to find Sophie. The rest was up to the system, flawed, slow, but still the only thing standing between chaos and order. But what Hawk didn't know yet was that Travis Holt wasn't working alone. 2 days after the arrest, Hawk received another call. This time from Detective Gordon, the same cop who had interviewed him after the Montana forest rescue. "Hawk, it's Gordon. We need to talk." "I'm listening." Holt's talking, and what he's saying, it's bigger than one girl, a lot bigger. Hawk's jaw tightened. "How big?" "He's been running a pipeline. Grooming kids online, picking them up, moving them across state lines. He's got contacts in 3 states, and he says there are other kids, still missing." Hawk closed his eyes. "How many?" "At least 7 that he'll admit to. Could be more." "Where?" "That's the problem. He's not giving specifics. He's trying to trade intel for a deal. His lawyer's stalling. And in the meantime, those kids are still out there." Hawk's voice went cold. "So what do you need from me?" "I need your crew. Off the books. I need you to chase down leads. The department can't move on fast enough. We're bound by protocol, warrants, chain of command. You're not. You're asking me to break the law. I'm asking you to save lives. There's a difference." Hawk was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Send me everything you've got. Names, locations, associates. I'll handle the rest." "Hawk, if this goes sideways, I can't protect you." "I'm not asking you to." Gordon exhaled. "You're a good man, Hawk. Dangerous, but good. Goodness has nothing to do with it." Hawk hung up. Within 6 hours, the crew was assembled again. This time, not just in Montana. Riders from Wyoming, Idaho, and South Dakota rolled in. Word had spread through the network. An underground web of veterans, ex-cops, search and rescue volunteers, and people who simply refused to look away. By nightfall, there were 97 motorcycles parked at Iron Ridge. Hawk stood on the hood of his truck, a map spread across the windshield, marked with locations Holt had been connected to. Truck stops, motels, abandoned properties, places where girls had been seen and then vanished. "We've got 7 names," Hawk said, his voice carrying over the crowd. 7 kids who were taken and haven't been found. Holt says some are alive, some might not be. But we're not assuming anything. We're checking every location. We're knocking on every door. And we're not stopping until all 7 are accounted for. He held up the first photo. A girl named Emily, 13, missing from Bozeman. Then another. Kayla, 15, missing from Cheyenne. Then Jessa. Then Brooke. Then Aiden, a boy, 12 years old, taken from a group home in Rapid City. Each face met with silence. Each name burned into memory. "We move in teams of 5, Hawk continued. "You've all been assigned zones. You've got contact numbers. If you find something, you don't go in alone. You call it in. We do this smart, we do this fast, and we bring them home." Someone in the crowd shouted, "What if we find Holt's people? What then?" Hawk's expression didn't change. "You document, you photograph, you report, you let the law handle it. And if the law's too slow," Hawk paused. Then he said, "then you make sure the kid gets out alive first. Everything else is secondary." The crowd murmured approval. Carla stepped forward. "Hawk, what about you? What zone are you taking?" Hawk folded the map. "I'm going to the source." "Which is?" "Holt's brother. Cody, the kid who introduced Sophie to Travis in the first place." Darcy frowned. "You think he knows where the others are?" "I think he knows more than he's saying, and I think he's scared. Scared kids talk if you give them a reason to." Rhett nodded. "You want backup?" "No. This one I do alone." Cody Holt lived in a basement apartment 3 blocks from the duplex where Sophie had been found. 17 years old. Dropout, no job, no future. Just a kid who'd made bad choices and was about to pay for them. Hawk knocked on the door at 11 p.m. Cody opened it a crack, eyes wide with fear. "Who are you?" "The man who found Sophie Torrance." Cody tried to shut the door. Hawk's boot stopped it. I'm not here to hurt you, Cody. I'm here to give you a chance. I don't know anything. Yeah, you do. And if you don't help me, 7 more kids die. You want that on you? Cody's face crumpled. I didn't know, man. I swear. Travis told me he was just hanging out with them. I didn't know he was... His voice broke. Hawk stepped inside, closing the door behind him. He didn't sit, he didn't soften. Listen to me. Your brother's going to prison for the rest of his life. You can either go with him, or you can help me fix this, right now, tonight. Last chance. Cody's hand shook. If I talk, he'll kill me. If you don't talk, I'll make sure everyone knows you were part of it. And trust me, kid, there are people out there who won't wait for a trial. Cody stared at him, tears streaming down his face. There's a place, he whispered. An old hunting cabin near the border. Travis used to go there. He'd bring the girls there first, before moving them. Where? Cody grabbed a piece of paper, scribbled an address. Hawk took it. If you're lying... I'm not, I swear. Hawk walked to the door, then stopped. Get out of this town, Cody, tonight, and don't ever come back. He left without another word. 40 minutes later, Hawk and 12 riders arrived at the cabin. It was deep in the woods, off a dirt road that hadn't been maintained in years. The cabin was dark, but there was a truck parked outside and a light flickering inside. Hawk radioed Gordon. We've got a location. Sending coordinates now, but we're not waiting. Hawk, don't... He cut the line. They moved in, and what they found inside that cabin, 3 girls, alive, terrified, locked in a back room, was enough to make even the hardest among them weep. By dawn, all 3 were safe. All 3 were going home. And Travis Holt's network was burning to the ground. If this story is hitting you hard, hit that like button. We're only halfway through, and what comes next will change everything. The cabin smelled like rot and fear. Mildew clung to the walls. A single battery-powered lantern cast long shadows across the floor, and in the back room, behind a door that had been padlocked from the outside, were 3 girls. Emily, Kayla, Jessa, alive. Hawk cut the lock with bolt cutters. The door swung open slowly. Inside, the girls sat huddled together on a bare mattress, their faces pale, their eyes wide with a mix of terror and disbelief. Darcy was the first to step inside. She moved slowly, hands open, voice soft. Hey, my name's Darcy. You're safe now. We're here to take you home. Emily, the youngest, started crying. Kayla stared in silence, as if she couldn't process what was happening. Jessa, the oldest at 15, whispered, Is this real? It's real, Darcy said. You're getting out of here. Within minutes, paramedics arrived. Blankets were wrapped around shoulders, water bottles handed out, vitals checked. The girls were weak, dehydrated, traumatized, but alive. Hawk stood outside the cabin watching as they were loaded into ambulances. His face was stone, his fists clenched. He'd seen this twice now. 3 rescues in less than a month. And every time, the same question burned in his mind. How many more are out there? Carla walked up beside him, arms crossed, her expression grim. 3 more saved. That's something. It's not enough, Hawk said quietly. It never is. But it's more than nothing. Hawk turned to her. Holt said there were 7. We found 3. Where are the others? Maybe they're already gone, Hawk. Or maybe they're just harder to find. Carla studied him for a long moment. You can't save them all. Then I'll die trying. She didn't argue. She knew better. By the time the sun rose, the media had caught wind of the story. News vans lined the dirt road leading to the cabin. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras clicked. Helicopter blades chopped the air overhead. Hawk avoided them all. He didn't want attention. He didn't want praise. He wanted the other 4 kids, but the world didn't work that way. By noon, his face was on every screen in the state. Headlines blared, biker crew saves 3 girls from trafficking ring. Vigilante rescue sparks, debate over law enforcement gaps. Who is Hawk Lennox, and why isn't he a cop? Hawk ignored it all. He was too busy staring at the 4 remaining photos pinned to the wall of his workshop. Brooke, Aiden, Natalie, Marisol, still missing, still waiting. 3 days later, Hawk got a lead. Not from the police, not from Holt, but from one of the girls they'd saved. Kayla had been interviewed by a child psychologist, someone trained to work with trauma survivors. During the session, she'd mentioned something, a name, a place. There was another girl, they called her Mari. She was only there for one night, then a man came and took her. They said she was going to Canada. Hawk got the recording from Detective Gordon, who bent every rule in the book to share it. He listened to it 3 times. Then he made a call, not to the crew, not to Carla, to a man named Elias Grant. Elias was former Canadian Border Services, retired now, living in a cabin outside Calgary. He and Hawk had served together in Afghanistan, back when they both wore uniforms and believed in the mission. Elias picked up on the second ring. "Hawk, been a while. I need a favor." "Of course you do. What is it this time?" "A girl, 14, possibly trafficked across the border 3 weeks ago. First name Marisol. I need to know if any alerts or reports match her description." Elias was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "This about that rescue in Montana?" "Yeah, I saw the news. You've got half the country calling you a hero and the other half calling you a vigilante. I don't care what they call me. I just need the girl. Send me her photo. I'll make some calls." "Thanks, Elias." "Well, Hawk, be careful. You keep pushing this hard, you're going to end up in a cell or a grave. Better than doing nothing." Elias sighed. "Yeah, I know." 2 days later, Elias called back. "I found something. A girl matching Marisol's description was picked up by Calgary police 2 weeks ago. She was found wandering a truck stop, disoriented, no ID. They ran her prints, no match. She wouldn't talk, gave a fake name. She's currently in a youth shelter waiting for social services to figure out her status." Hawk's pulse quickened. "Where?" "I'll text you the address. But Hawk, if she's undocumented, if she's been trafficked, she's not going to trust you. Hell, she might not even trust me. You need to tread carefully." "Understood." "And Hawk?" "Yeah? If you pull this off, if you get her home, you're going to make a lot of people very uncomfortable. People who don't like being reminded that the system failed." "Good," Hawk said. "Let them be uncomfortable." He hung up, grabbed his jacket, and started his bike. Carla appeared from the workshop. "Where are you going?" "Calgary." "That's 1,000 miles, Hawk." "Then I better get moving." She grabbed his arm. "You can't do this alone. I'm not asking anyone else to cross an international border for this." "Then you're an idiot, because I'm coming with you anyway." Hawk looked at her. Then, slowly, he nodded. "Pack light. We leave in an hour." They crossed the border at night. No fanfare, no official channels, just 2 riders on a back road, slipping past checkpoints with the kind of quiet competence that came from years of knowing when rules mattered and when lives mattered more. By the time they reached Calgary, it was 3 a.m. The youth shelter was a converted church on the east side of the city. Lights out, security minimal. Elias met them in the parking lot. He looked older than Hawk remembered, grayer, thinner, but his eyes were still sharp. "She's in room 12, 2nd floor. I got you a window, literally. Fire escape. You've got maybe 10 minutes before the night staff does rounds." Hawk shook his hand. "I owe you. You owe me nothing. Just get her out." Hawk and Carla climbed the fire escape. The window to room 12 was unlocked. They slipped inside. The room was small, 2 bunk beds, 3 girls sleeping. The 4th bed was empty. Hawk moved silently, scanning each face in the dim light filtering through the window. Then he saw her. Bottom bunk, far corner, dark hair, small frame, a silver bracelet on her wrist, the same one her mother had described in the missing person report. Marisol. Hawk knelt beside the bed, keeping his distance, his voice barely a whisper. "Marisol." The girl's eyes snapped open. Fear flooded her face. She started to pull back, to scream. Carla stepped into view, hands raised, voice calm. "We're not here to hurt you. Your mother sent us. Rosa Delgado. She's been looking for you." Marisol froze. Her eyes darted between them, searching for a trap. "My mom?" "Yes," Hawk said quietly. "She never stopped. She hired investigators, filed reports in 3 countries, and when she heard about us, about what we do, she called. "We're here to take you home." Tears welled in Marisol's eyes. "I can't. They'll find me. They'll kill her." "Who?" Hawk asked. "The men. The ones who took me. They said if I ran, if I talked, they'd go after my family." Hawk's jaw clenched. "They lied. Men like that always do. But I'm telling you the truth. We've already taken down the network that brought you here. The man who sold you is in custody. His contacts are being rounded up, and your mother is waiting for you in El Paso." Marisol's face crumpled. She covered her mouth to stifle a sob. Carla crouched down beside her. "You've been strong for so long. But you don't have to be strong alone anymore. Let us help." Marisol looked at them for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. Hawk helped her to her feet, wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, and led her to the window. Within minutes, they were back on the fire escape, back in the parking lot, back on the road. By dawn, they were across the border again. By noon, they were in Montana. And by sunset, they were on a plane to Texas. When Marisol stepped off that plane and into her mother's arms, the world stopped for both of them. Rosa Delgado collapsed to her knees, holding her daughter, weeping, whispering prayers in Spanish. Hawk and Carla stood back, watching in silence. No cameras, no headlines, just a mother and daughter reunited. That was enough. But 3 were still missing. Brooke, Aiden, Natalie. Hawk returned to Montana with a fire in his chest that wouldn't go out. The media called him a hero. The police called him reckless. The families called him a miracle. He called himself tired, but he didn't stop. Detective Gordon reached out again a week later. "Hawk, we got something. Holt's lawyer is trying to cut a deal. He says Travis will give up locations for the last 3 if the DA reduces his sentence." Hawk's voice went cold. "No deals. That's not your call. Then make it mine." Gordon sighed. "I can't, but I can tell you this. Holt's scared. He's heard what's happening. How many kids you've pulled out, how many networks you've burned, and he knows if he doesn't talk, someone's going to get to him inside. Inmates don't like child traffickers." "Good," Hawk said. "Let him sweat. Hawk, I need you to think about this. If we don't make a deal, those 3 kids might never be found." Hawk was silent for a long time. Then he said, "Set up a meeting. I want to talk to him." "You can't just set it up, Gordon, or I'll find another way." Gordon hesitated. Then quietly he said, "I'll see what I can do." 3 days later, Hawk sat across from Travis Holt in a county jail interrogation room. No lawyers, no guards inside, just a table, 2 chairs, and the man who had destroyed so many lives. Holt looked smaller than Hawk remembered, pale, hollow-eyed. His hands shook as he folded them on the table. "You're the biker," Holt said. "I'm the man who's going to make sure you never see daylight again," Hawk replied. Holt swallowed hard. "I heard you found Marisol and the others." "I did. That's good. I mean, I didn't want them to die. I just—" Hawk leaned forward, his voice like a blade. "You don't get to feel good about this. You don't get redemption. You're done. The only question now is whether you die in here knowing you helped or knowing you didn't." Holt's lip trembled. "I want a deal. You're not getting one. But if you tell me where the last 3 are, I'll make sure the other inmates know you cooperated. Maybe they'll go easy on you. Maybe not. That's your gamble." Holt stared at him, eyes wide, calculating. Then slowly he nodded. "There's a farm outside Billings, old place, abandoned. A guy named Leo runs it. He moves kids through there. Brooke and Natalie, they were supposed to go there. I don't know if they're still there, but that's where they were heading. And Aiden." Holt's face darkened. "Aiden's different. He was sold to a private buyer, someone with money. I don't know his name. I swear. But the transaction went through a broker in Denver, guy named Vince Carrero. He's the one who handles the high-end clients." Hawk's stomach turned. "Address." Holt gave it. Hawk stood, walked to the door, then stopped. "You're going to die in here, Holt, and no one's going to mourn you." He left without looking back. By midnight, 58 motorcycles surrounded the farm outside Billings. Hawk didn't knock this time. He didn't wait. They stormed the property like a wave, flashlights, bolt cutters, radios crackling. Inside the barn, they found Brooke and Natalie locked in a livestock pen, barely conscious but breathing. The man named Leo tried to run. He didn't make it far. Rhett tackled him in the dirt, zip-tied his wrists, and dragged him back to the barn where the girls were being loaded into ambulances. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life," Leo spat. Rhett smiled coldly. "No, you did. Years ago." The next day, Hawk flew to Denver alone. Vince Carrero lived in a luxury condo downtown. Security cameras, doorman. The kind of place where money bought silence. Hawk didn't care. He walked into the lobby at 9 a.m., flashed a fake badge, and told the doorman he was with Child Protective Services. 2 minutes later, he was on the 15th floor, standing outside Carrero's door. He knocked. Carrero opened the door in a silk robe, coffee in hand, annoyed. "What do you want?" Hawk stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "A 12-year-old boy named Aiden. You sold him. I want to know where he is." Carrero's face went pale. "I don't know what you're—" Hawk grabbed him by the collar, slammed him against the wall. "I'm not a cop. I'm not bound by rules, and I'm not leaving until you tell me." Carrero's coffee cup hit the floor, shattering. Okay, he's in Wyoming, a ranch outside Jackson Hole, private estate. The buyer's name is Randall Thorne. He's connected. Politically, you can't just—" Hawk let him go. "Watch me." He walked out, leaving Carrero trembling on the floor. 2 days later, Hawk and 34 riders descended on the ranch in Jackson Hole. Randall Thorne met them at the gate, flanked by private security. "This is private property. You have no authority here." Hawk stared him down. "I don't need authority. I need the boy." Thorne smiled coldly. "There's no boy here." "You're mistaken." Hawk pulled out his phone, held up a photo of Aiden. "This boy, 12 years old, taken from a group home in Rapid City, sold to you 3 weeks ago. If he's not standing in front of me in the next 60 seconds, I'm calling every news station in the country and telling them exactly who you are." Thorne's smile faltered. "You're bluffing. Try me." A long silence. Then Thorne turned to one of his guards. "Bring him." 5 minutes later, Aiden walked out of the house, pale, scared, but alive. Hawk knelt in front of him. "You're safe now, kid. We're taking you home." Aiden collapsed into his arms, sobbing. By the end of the week, all 7 were found. All 7 were safe, and Travis Holt's network was gone. 3 months later, Hawk stood in the same gravel lot at Iron Ridge Veterans Hall. The fire was burning again. The bikes were parked in rows. And this time, there were faces he recognized, and some he didn't. Word had spread across state lines, across communities. The crew had grown. What had started as 53 strangers following a desperate boy into the woods had become something bigger. A network, a movement, a promise made flesh. They called it Iron Promise. Not a club, not a gang, a covenant. When someone asks for help, we answer. Hawk stood before them now, older, quieter, but no less determined. "We've saved 19 kids in 3 months," he said. 19 lives that were stolen and given back. But for everyone we save, there are 10 more still out there. Still waiting, still hoping someone will come. He paused, looking at each face in the crowd. "This isn't about glory. It's not about the news or the thank yous. It's about the promise we make every time we start our engines. That we won't look away. That we won't give up. That we'll ride as far as it takes to bring them home." Someone in the crowd shouted, "We ride!" Others echoed it. "We ride! We ride!" Hawk nodded. "Then let's keep our promise." That night, as the fire burned low and the stars came out, a woman approached Hawk. She was in her 30s, eyes red from crying, but her voice was steady. "Are you Hawk?" He turned. "Yeah. My son is missing. He's 9. The police say they're looking, but it's been 2 weeks and I don't—" Her voice broke. "I don't know what to do." Hawk looked at her for a long moment. Then he placed a hand on her shoulder. "You just did it. You asked for help." He turned to the crew. We've got another one. Saddle up. Within minutes, engines roared to life, headlights cut through the darkness, and once again 53 strangers, no, 53 family members, rode into the night, because they had made a promise, and they would keep it, again, and again, and again, for as long as it took. Thank you for watching this story. If it moved you, please subscribe and share it with someone who needs to be reminded that there are still people in this world who refuse to look away. We'll see you in the next one. Stay strong, stay loyal, and never stop riding toward the light.